Unfortunately, we lose a lot of good men into the spirituality scene. This is okay for a patch. You can learn a lot of lessons there, even if the lesson is losing yourself. Yet, when men get stuck there for a long time, they often become very feminine, which I'll explain, and often embark on the eternal healing process. That everything that happens to them is like, what part of me is this? Is that my trauma? Is that my wounds? Is that my mummy, daddy, shadow work, inner child, thingamajiggy? Because these buzzwords are all the rave. It's become self-help. Spirituality would be more surrender to God, listen, trust, faith, move forward. Where the self-helpy part of it has its place, but unfortunately we'll get men lost there, and some of them are there through true integrity, and they've felt the call and they've had a thing, whether that be a traumatic experience, shame, an awakening thing happen, and they're there through genuine curiosity as they're trying to walk a path to enlightenment. There's going to be many delusions, especially when they're young, but they're there for the right reasons. Then there's other men there who are there because it's the new cool scene. They're there because this is where the conscious women are hanging out. They're there to depict themselves as an awakened man that's doing the work, to show woman that, look at me, mummy, look what I'm doing. There's a lot of that, and that's very dangerous. We'll even have people in places of service operating from a place of communicating everything through a feminine frame, to create this thing of like, look at me, I'm safe, I'm here to appease woman. It's dangerous. Look up the Ahab and Jezebel story. There's a lot of that playing out. But there's also a lot of really good men who can actually grow that are unfortunately come across with some wounds, which often are in the lower kingdom or some masculine aspect of himself, then dropping into the feminine frame of modern spirituality, which is dominated by women, which is not their fault. That's fine. They're more powerful there. They're better at the modality and service thing. But it's bringing men into that emotionalism, and men are looking to the others like, oh, is this what I'm meant to be doing to be a conscious person? Because they're not in their center operating from the true core of who they are, which will just say, fuck it, I'll do what I want. But trying to align what you want to the higher. And when dudes get lost into this, thinking that this is spirituality, that spirituality is just this eternal healing process, it's a bottomless pit. And if they don't take the next step out, which reclaims the masculine parts of themselves and moves on to mission, as the sacred masculine is action. And this is what we need. We need our spiritual men strong and courageous, making moves. We need our alpha dogs tapped in. And this part of the spiritual journey, the mission, is where the alpha dogs dominate. They're just like, not mission. Not, don't feel that feeling, mission. Don't do that, mission. And they have a good point there, but unfortunately, some of them never sort of tap into the energetics or the subtle realms. But the true ones do. The true ones use that worldly path and actually become super tapped in with authentic wisdom. Same as the spiritualists that take the spiritual and the floaty path, but they activate their balls, they get on their action, and they bring that along. Because falling into an emotionalism in the feeling, and they get triggered, oh, that triggered me, so I'm... People think it's like fucking virtuous to get triggered. Like, it's not. It's not. But they flip back on themselves too much. And there's a big difference between being locked in your emotions and being sensitive. Being sensitive is a superpower. Being sensitive is intelligence, and you're picking up energetic things within you and external. But as men, we need to balance that with being grounded and strong. That we speak from the core of who we are. That we operate from the truth and the connection to higher. That when we're in relationship with women, we're not just holding space for delusion. We're calling shit out. You'll watch your eyes light up if you can actually do that and help a woman grow who wants to grow. It's like, because there's spaces in there, like the modern day men's circle has become more of a woman's circle where you go in and speak about your vulnerabilities and your weakness and have that held by other men. Now, this has a place for the men who've never been able to express themselves before, and they felt really unsafe around men. Okay, but for the ones who've graduated through that, it's like, if we get a bunch of dudes together, we'll do shit, we'll have chats, the chats will be deep because we're just deep, but we're plotting together. Like, what are we fighting for here? What is all this for? How can we do something together? Because you're going to notice that the tapped in ones, the details of their life and the things they do or the practices or the spiritual things, it's all going to look different, but you're going to meet on a soul level, just like there's a real one, authentically being them and clearly on a similar mission. That's where you really gel. It's not all the things that you do. It's not spiritual doing. Yeah, people love playtime spirituality. You know? Life can be play, but let's not pretend, understand when we're doing things of depth and understand when we're playing. You have free will, so you get to choose where you put your energy and your time. And I don't make these videos to shit on the spirituality scene. There's a heap of great things in it. There's some real ones in there too. It's just for the men. A lot of you have already graduated out of it and then reclaimed yourself and went on a more powerful, authentic path, and well done to you. And the ones on the fringe that can intuit it, but there's not enough role models there for them to see. That they're lovely people who are sensitive and they're just working diligently, hoping to like have some breakthrough. And they have, like, there's a delusion of they're hoping that if they keep practicing and doing these things like the spiritual people do, that one day they're going to break through and become enlightened. If you haven't brought all of you along and you're still carrying some shame and different things in the lower kingdom or the masculine instincts and parts of you that you've gone, oh, I want to bypass or transcend that, you're not bringing all of you along. And that's still there. Because one of the interesting things is like when you work with men and reconnect them to parts of them that they've let go, there's a big fear there of like, oh, well, now the masculine instinct's up, maybe I'm going to go sleep with a heap of prostitutes. Because that's what they were trying to put away because they've made mistakes in the past. But what most commonly happens is, because they're at a new level of awareness, it's like, oh, well, that's there. That's a thing you can look at, up to you. You have free will. And if they take 2 steps towards the prostitutes, they go, what the fuck am I doing? I don't want to do this. But it was an infatuation that they moved through. And it's not that you have to play that out. Just actually going towards it, you realize that was a delusion and actually a fear that you had stored that you were trying to transcend. Then when you actually dropped in it and you're like, oh, here's all my shit and my desires and the things. Then when you move towards it, you're like, actually, that's not real. I know I don't want that now. Bush. That's healing. That's healing. And what's most healing is the mission. Because that's where the mission brings everything to alignment. Soul, spirit, ego, instinct, on the thing. You can say for God if you want. The evolution of consciousness. And the evolution of consciousness as the mission doesn't mean you need to be a spiritual yoga guru. You can be a builder, a farmer, an artist, a musician. And because you're that type of guy, that's how you do it. And you'll be rewarded for that. You feel it in your energy. This is where I say, and most of that being on the mission just stops the healing stuff. It's so far back. You're like, oh, remember when I was trying to figure that out? You're a new being. You're a present moment on the mission guy. Then you get blocked on the mission and you can feel it in your energy. And then maybe that's an opportunity like, oh, I'm blocked here because that comes from blah, blah, blah. But you just don't do that anymore. It doesn't worry you. It's like, oh, this is happening. Oh, resistance there. That's funny. Go. Because there is a lot of dudes that feel that resistance and maybe don't see what it actually is. And there's a rock under their pillow. There's something they need to face or see, and it can be very subtle. But they'll literally run around the world doing yoga retreats, ayahuasca things, keep soul searching when there was just this action that they needed to take. Your path is your path, and the way you're going to operate and do that will be different. If you're deep in the spirituality scene, it's working for you. That's you. Go. You know? Met a non-duality guy for the last couple of days. Looks like the spirituality scene, but he's tapped in. He's authentically on his mission. His is to spread like love and God, and he's doing it. These change, most likely, but it's like you can feel when a person's actually operating from their authentic core. And that's all the world wants, and that's all women are what you want, it's that. Don't do it for that reason. But to begin the journey, you really have to have all the pieces of you coming along, or it's a bypass. And the thing is, it can be essential and a really good lesson just to learn, like, hang on a minute. I am not all here right now. And for men who are a bit lost in it, don't worry, heaps of us have done it as well. And after it, a lot of dudes become rebellious and say, fuck all that nonsense, which having a bit of a healthy rebellion's okay, but you don't want to go anti anything either. Like, that the work you do is a connection to your truth and you're moving forward. You don't have to go adversary to something, because it brings you into that energy of just pushing it back, which can eventually have its own things. It's an intricate path, but make sure it's yours. Use what you want from any sphere. But the overall arching thing, if people were to say what type of men are in the spirituality scene, people would say weak. People would say weak men. That's their judgment. But there's some truth in it. And a lot of it just comes from a man operating from his authentic core. Like, dudes following along or copying, that's automatically not masculine. A masculine man does what he wants. But if he does what he wants without the connection to higher, he'll destroy his life. When he has the connection to higher and that sort of aligns to what he wants, then he's on. Even women in general, like good women I speak to here, they're like, oh, I'd never date a spiritual man again. And they don't mean that as a guy who's tapped in. They mean a guy who's doing the spiritual stuff, because she's like, yeah, everything was an emotional process. And I didn't want to get anywhere near his dick, because the polarity goes, you know, it's too emotional. Talk soon.